What is going on, everybody? And welcome back to episode 11 of the Game Time Podcast. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, SnowBikeMike, and I am joined with my dude, Tom Bock, the Patreon producer. Tom Bock, what is going on?
Everything, man. Everything and nothing. Tons of time with video games here this last couple of weeks, man. We've been just deep in some games this week. It's the fall season. All the new games are coming out. There can't be anything better than this time of year if you're a video gamer, you know?
It's the truth, Tom. Fall is in the air. It's starting to chill a little bit in probably your region of the world, and all the hot game releases are coming out right now. So, of course, with the Game Time Podcast, we're going to give you all the gaming news that we want to talk about, and then we're going to sprinkle on a little bit of sports topics throughout each and every show just to talk some of our passions in life. So to kick us off, Tom, you are now back from Pax West. I want to know all about it. Why don't you give me a recap of what Pax West was like?
Pax West was huge. It was, this is my third year going now, and man, it is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It is a massive event, man, and I seriously hope that next year you can come and enjoy it. We, my daughter and I got a hotel room downtown because we kind of wanted to be all up in the action, not that I live that far away, but it's like a 45-minute drive, right, to have to deal with traffic. So we stayed downtown, which was a great idea, except that it's so, dude, I can't even like put it into context how busy it is down in downtown Seattle for PAX. It's every 10 blocks around the convention center, every which way you go, there's people in cosplay, and it's just bedlam down there. Plus they had, you know, all the outdoor Fortnite tournaments and stuff this year. I don't know if you caught any of that, the summer skirmish stuff. They did those outdoors. The weather was beautiful. Man, it was it's an amazing time to do PAX, and I think this year was probably my favorite year that I've done it so far. Got to see the What's Good Games folks, saw Greg a little bit. Man, it was a hell of a good time.
That's awesome, Tom. I mean, so much to recap me on. I know we had the big finale of the Fortnite Summer Skirmish. Did you and your daughter maybe get to go see any of that action live? Were you catching it on Twitch as you were walking around the hallways? Did you get any feel of that?
We did. We saw that we went, and it was absolute bedlam. So the convention center is, you know, like any big kind of state convention center, is a bunch of floors. It's a huge facility, right? And so they have it kind of divided up into different things. They've got a couple of floors of tabletop gaming. They've got a couple floors of tons of networked PCs and consoles for some tournaments. And when I say tournaments, they have tournaments to, like, you know, Nintendo 64 type games from way back, people playing Donkey Kong. Like, it's just amazing how much the tournament stuff they have going on. But Fortnite was clearly the big draw, right? They had a lot of the professional players. Not everybody was there, but a lot of the big names were there. We caught part of it. We probably caught a good couple of hours of it. In fact, we saw, I don't know if you watch much of it, but there was one game where a guy that won, and each individual win was, I think, 25 grand that the winner got. One kid got it with no kills, like the no kill 25K challenge, and the circle just closed on everybody, and he out-healed his way, one of those weird things. So that's the
awesome.
one that, it was awesome, right? So that was one of the ones we got to watch that was there. But dude, I mean, having never been, I don't know if you've been to like a big esports tournament. I hadn't been to one. It was way more exciting than I thought. I wasn't exactly sure what that was going to be like. It was really exciting to watch that there was probably 2,000 other people watching it with us on these big screens. You know, they kind of spared no expense in the whole setup of the thing. It was really cool to watch that live. Yeah.
That's so awesome, Tom. And yeah, they put on a big show. For me watching on Twitch from the outside, it looked really cool. Give me some of your perspective from that, because what it looked like from the outside, it looked like they had all the players inside of their own contained room, so there was no real crowd noise. Were you in front of the commentators, just televisions? What did that look like?
Kind of a little bit of both. So they did have all the players sort of hidden in a for lack of a better term, like a plexiglass big room that you sat out in front of, and they had these big screens up above so you could watch everything that was going on, but you really had no idea where the individual players within the room were until one of them would get killed, and then they would kind of stand up and mill around, right? Because the matches were still going on. But the announcers were, in some cases, like Dr. Lupo, one of the big streamers, was doing some of the announcing. You may have seen him do it. They were doing the announcing outdoors. So there was like a whole separate area they had. So they had a big spot where the crowds that were in downtown, who may not have necessarily even been at PAX, could also come and watch. So you could watch, you could get where the players were and watch up close, or you could watch from a distance if you were just walking around downtown to see it. So man, it was crazy. By the way, they also had, so the bottom 2 floors, which I guess is actually floors 3 and 4, sort of the ground level and the next level up of the convention center, was a big Fortnite putt-putt. So they took all the themes from all the different locales within Fortnite and they made a big giant putt-putt course out of them. Man, I am not exaggerating when I say, and we didn't do it, unfortunately, and I'll get to in a minute sort of the bad side of PAX, which is dealing with crowds of that size. But we tried it, I think, on 3 different days. We went down to wait. It was at least a 2-hour wait to play putt-putt. And this isn't like, it's cool looking and to see like Salty Springs version of a putt-putt hole, but it wasn't like a 2-hour wait kind of a thing that you were willing to do that. But man, it was a Fortnite themed PAX. I'll put it to you that way.
Oh, well, that is awesome, Tom. And yes, saw a lot of photos of people having fun on the mini golf course, which looked exceptional, like you said. And man, you and I talked about it last episode. Fortnite really taking a hold of the world. And man, to have something so focused on Fortnite, from the big finale of the Summer Skirmish to them taking over all that square footage just for a mini golf course, that is pretty wild, Tom Bock.
They put it all out there, man. And it was hard to deal with the crowds. And one thing I will say that was sort of a changing gears a little bit, that was really amazing to me about PAX, because you and I spoke, I think it was when we did the last podcast, we were leading up to that day. You'd given me like a, hey man, the shooting had just happened, unfortunately, and at the EA thing. And you're like, hey, pay attention, know where the exits are, kind of reminding me of all the important stuff that we all need to think about these days when it comes to these big events and police and stuff. And I actually heard the kind of funny guys talking about it too. Either every single cop that was there was not in uniform and was a hidden, trying to go undercover. But man, the lack of security, or the seeming lack of security, was overwhelming. Like I've never been in an event that big that seemed to have less security. As in, you could have probably gone in there without a badge, and those badges were selling for $300 a day on the street. Like, there weren't even people checking badges, let alone checking your bag, let alone going through metal detectors. Like, there was many times that I stopped and looked around like, I don't see anybody here of any authority if something, God forbid, was to go wrong. And I don't know if it's just because it's a state-run thing, it's a convention center, so it's the government, or if it's they just couldn't react that quickly to change the plans because of what happened at the Madden thing, because that's a big lift, right? You got to get security hired, you got to bring in metal. There'd be a massive amount of work to do that. But man, there was a shocking lack of security at PAX. Thank God nothing happened. But even all the Fortnite stuff, people were wandering in and out. Like, they would wander in from one and you'd go up through the convention center, and it just seemed like free access for everybody. It was really kind of bizarre, which is sad to say that you think of stuff like that. But in this day and age, given what's happened, it was kind of shocking.
Wow, Tom, that is really interesting to me. Very unfortunate situation happening down in Jacksonville, Florida at that Madden tournament just a week prior to you going to PAX. And we talked about it, what security ramp up might be. And not just from you, I've heard from many others that security did not seem that big a high priority. Of course, that these conventions are run each and every year, and security is the utmost importance. So I'm sure they have things beyond our knowledge. But yeah, to hear no metal detections, no bag checks, that's very interesting, Tom. And it'll be another one we'll talk about at the end of October. I will be attending TwitchCon, and TwitchCon on their Twitter account said that security is their utmost important thing, and they're going to upgrade their security. So it'll be interesting to see what TwitchCon does. You and I came off of RTX, where you had to get your bag checked. You had to go through a metal detector. You walked the floor without your badge around your neck, Guardians would come up to you and tell you had to have it around your neck. So
right,
that's
even if it was
interesting
just hidden
what you
inside
said.
your shirt, right, that you couldn't
Yeah.
quite see it, you had people stopping you. It was like night and day because we did those about a month apart. And to see the security at RTX, now granted, RTX is legitimately 1/100th the size of PAX. Like it's that much different in size, but still, yeah, it was pretty shocking, especially what happened to Dr. Disrespect and the shooting and that stuff, whatever that turns out to be. Like it's just a weird world we're living in. But anyway, not on to the less morbid stuff. Dude, there was so many great games there. Like the one thing about PAX that I love, and it's such a unique environment to see the talent of the marketing people at these companies to put up these. And I tried to tweet out as much as possible. I'm sure if you follow me on Twitter, you kind of got sick of all the stuff I was sending out, but the booths that they came up with, the layouts that they had, the thought that they put into how they were going to do their demo booths. I mean, like the Spider-Man demo booth was just unbelievable. Like to think of the amount of work that goes into creating the facades and the screens and networking all the PCs and all this stuff with it. There was a Resident Evil booth for Resident Evil 2 that we didn't get to go do. That was probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And somebody I think that I was talking to, it was Jared Petty or somebody, I was lamenting because the line was 2 hours long to ever do it. I guess he had done it at one of the recent events. It may have been Gamescom or something else. And they like actually have people inside of the structure that jump out at you, and it's an actual haunted house. I mean, it's straight up out of Resident Evil. So man, it is like a video game wonderland. It's like Disneyland for video games, if you can deal with the crowds, which I guess Disneyland obviously has crowds of that size too. But man, there's so many creative people in this industry. And whenever I go to a PAX, I'm just like overwhelmed by the amount of time and effort that goes into setting up these demos. Not to mention, and I sent you a couple of games I thought that you would love, the amount of indies that were there. That there's an entire PAX's lineage as PAX Penny Arcade was really not for the big giant games. It was originally developed kind of for these smaller games to get some publicity, right? That was the whole point of it. And so they cater to that. And two of the floors, literally two entire floors of the convention center, which think of like at RTX, right? That would like one of those floors. Two of them are just towards the indies and just towards these much smaller independent studio games. Man, it was so amazing to see what all these really amazing people are working on. And they're so, like, if you want to come talk to them, they're so proud to show off their game, to talk about what they're working on. Like it's just, as a gamer, there's nothing greater than getting that time at 3 days like that at an event like PAX. It was really cool.
Oh, Tom, it sounds cool. And it's one of those, when you're looking at it from the outside or even in the event, just to think of a production standpoint of like, when do all of these, producers, everybody behind the scenes that's creating all these awesome booths, when do they have the time to create these? Are they working all on one floor together? Is it just strictly your booth? Such cool things to think about behind the scenes. And one day would love to see what it really looks like, the pre and the wrap up afterwards. That would be some amazing movement there.
Next year, you got to get your tickets early, get a hotel, man. You got to do it. It's an experience that, I like I said, this was my favorite one. And I think as I'm getting more used to sort of dealing with all of that stuff, that I enjoy it that much more. And there was some phenomenal games that I'm so glad that I got to see, that I've read about, seen. I tweeted some of them that really caught my eye, that were amazing, between small games and also sort of really big games as well. So man, definitely planning it next year. Although I will say, and this we can kind of move on, but the bad side of it is the crowd and how you deal with stuff. And in fact, I would say pretty much every major game, so whether it was Spider-Man, which was just releasing a week later, or Tomb Raider 2 weeks later, they had demos of stuff that was a lot further out, Division and stuff that's kind of March, February next year. The way that the lines work is they line people up, and then they'll cap the line, right? They'll have a person at the end of the line, and those caps, they'll tell you it's 2 hours from that cap. So think about that, man. 2 hours to wait to play a game. Probably, I think most of the demos are like 15 minutes. You get free reign with it, and you saw, they'll set up 100 screens, but that's a really big deal. You can waste an entire day just to get through 2 games. Go at 10 a.m., get in at noon, grab something to eat, start it again at 1 o'clock, maybe by 3 o'clock you're playing it, and then the day's over. So it's a really crazy thing if you want to actually go demo games. Like they had some really cool Oculus stuff, things you probably couldn't see anywhere else. But it's an all-day event just to wait in line to see a game, which that can be a little taxing if you're not ready to go make that kind of commitment to it.
Oh, incredible, Tom. Why don't you give us a couple really quick before we move on? Tell me a couple of games that you and your daughter enjoyed.
Yeah, so the one that she enjoyed the most that I sent you, and I'll have to look at the exact name of it, but it was the bike game. It's so your kind of game too, which I love that she loved it, and she couldn't take her eyes off it. She played it for hours on end. I'll send the name of it later. I think it's called like Downhill Descent or something like that. And it's being made by a couple of guys, like Eastern Bloc kind of company or old Eastern Bloc sort of countries. I want to say he's like Romanian. Two guys making this game that's basically just an endless runner of a bicycle. Beautiful art style. I'll send the name. I'll tweet it out later so people can see it. It really was cool, man. It looked like one of those games that you could spend hours and hours playing. And it's just like a checkpoint style, riding a bike through a forest. Really, really cool game. Looked amazingly beautiful. I think that one will be kind of a big success when it comes out. As far as the big AAA ones, there was two that really caught my eye that I was, or three that I was kind of really surprised by. The first one was The Division 2. Looked absolutely amazing, man. That game looked stellar. I don't know that I expected it not to be stellar because they have the polish that Ubisoft puts on their stuff now. But man, that game looked really, really, really good. Watched that for a super long time. Ubisoft had a little different setup where instead of waiting in long lines, you went and got a specific time. So if you wanted to go play at 3 o'clock, you could actually get like a fast pass to play it at the time, which was actually very cool to not have to wait in the big long lines. So I'd say the Division 2 really caught my eye. Just Cause 4 really caught my eye. We talked about that one last time. Like it looks like it's going to be pretty fantastic. I can't wait for that to come out. And Devil May Cry 5, man, that I don't know if you played much DMC, but it really looked special. Like that game, there was a massive crowd of people watching that one. There was something about that game that just had like a little different vibe, I think, than the other DMCs did, but it looked really, really cool. So those were kind of the big ones. Metro Exodus was also super impressive demo. Again, that's, it's still a little ways off, but it looked really, really, really good.
That's awesome, Tom. And favorite panel to wrap us up? Because I know you went to a couple.
I did go to a couple. I would say my favorite one was probably the Red Dead, the one, Jared Petty's Red Dead Radio, man. It was really good. It was kind of personal, a little bit smaller theater. It was a great time. Really enjoyed it. My daughter got to get up and ask a question to Jared, so she was really stoked. It was really good.
I love that, Tom. Well, I'm glad that you and her had a safe and fun time over at PAX. It is definitely a must-go-to in the gaming world with how big it's gotten. People call it the Publix E3, even though E3 is now turned public, but that's the place to go to now. It's beautiful up in Seattle and a big-time convention for 3 days, almost 4 days, it seems like, huh, Tom?
It was four full days, all day Friday through Monday, because it's Labor Day weekend, so they go all day Monday as well. So 4 days, a long time.
Incredible. Well, that's going to wrap up Tom's PAX West recap, and now we're going to jump into topic number one, of course, which is what have we been playing? I know me and Tom have had our hands on a lot of games. The fall season is in full effect, so we got some good ones to talk about. We're going to start off with The Messenger, currently out on Switch. And Tom, I know that this has stolen my heart. What do you think about The Messenger right now, Tom?
I love it. I want you to start this one, though, because I want to hear you go first on this one.
Tom, I really, really, really enjoy it. I put out a tweet a couple weeks ago. I said, if you had looked me in the eye a year ago, heck, even a month ago, and said, Mike, you're really going to enjoy games like Dead Cells, The Messengers, these roguelike Castlevania type games, I would have laughed you out of the room and said, no way, I've never played those in my life, nor will I ever enjoy anything like that. And sure enough, we talked about it before, Dead Cells. Amazing, so much fun, the punishment and then the grind to get better. And now The Messenger feels the same way for me. That cool ninja type feel with the awesome little 16-bit graphics. I really enjoy the aesthetic. And then the gameplay is like punishing and rewarding. And it's one of those where you die, but you just got to go right back at it again. And it's quick like Dead Cells, where if I die, I feel like, okay, I can be better at that. I can do this guy better. And man, I've kicked some butt against some bosses, and I've also had my butt kicked a fair amount of times against some bosses. So where I left off, I finished off the plant lady boss is what I would call her.
Okay.
And what about you? What are your thoughts?
I think I'm a little bit past that. So
Okay.
Also loving it too. And it did catch me a little bit off guard. And I think the thing that you know, all these games, especially when they try to have a modern game look retro, kind of deal with a lot of these. Do they spoof the way those old games used to be, or do they kind of embrace it? I love, dude, the dialogue in that game is hysterical. Like a lot of times I'll skip through that crap in those kind of games. I don't want to miss a single line of the dialogue in that game because it's so damn funny. Like, it's so clever the way that it's like, yeah, I'm about to give you this next piece of armor or whatever. It's like, why am I getting this? Well, because you needed to go to, like, just the back and forth with the guy that whoever, I forget the name of the character that he ends up talking to in all of the rooms, is so hysterically funny. The stories that guy tells, are you sure you want me to go into this story now? Like, if you keep repeating over and over about don't touch the chest, and it just goes on and on and on and on, is so funny, man. Those guys that wrote that are just beyond clever. Like, it's some of the best writing, which is hard. It's funny to say, like, some crazy 8-bit game has some of the best writing, but it really does. It's hysterical.
Oh, Tom, you hit it right on the head. That writing just elevates the game that much more because the gameplay is so tight, so much fun. And then you have those funny moments where, like, it is truly a funny, well-written piece of art right there. So a point where you could just read for the whole 5 minutes of dialogue and not even worry about the gameplay.
I know, it's great. It's great. But the gameplay is fantastic too. And I think that they captured the essence of those games really, really well. You know, when we did our top 10 list a long time ago, I put Super Metroid to me is still one of my favorite games of all time. And it's very, that whole genre style, it can be done well and it can be not done well. That game does it perfectly, and I think it captured the essence of what that is. It's just hard enough for me. There's a couple times I get a little frustrated with it. Like Hollow Knight's got its own set. And by the way, maybe one you haven't checked out yet, but that's very much in that vein as well. But there's something about the Messenger, I think, and I don't know what it is, that I feel like I learn at a little different pace in that game, and maybe it's because a lot of the challenges, like a lot of those things, you have to die to learn how not to die, and you kind of keep building on it. But I feel like I get it a little quicker on that game. And so if I die, I'm not repeatedly struggling with the same thing over and over and over. I feel like, okay, I die one time, I can kind of immediately assimilate what I did wrong and then get past it the next time. So the pace of that game, I think, is a little bit better than a lot of those other games. I'll bring up Hollow Knight again. That one is a little bit more of a grind. Dead Cells, we've talked about ad nauseum being a grind because it's legitimately it's made to be a grind, whereas the Messenger's not. To me, it hasn't been. I think you and I are about the same amount through. I can't wait to see where it goes. I think we're pretty far into it, I think, from what I've sort of read and seen. But I love it, man. That game is completely, if people haven't checked it out, it's a must play of this generation. Kind of like Celeste. I don't know if you've played Celeste yet, but those games are similar in the sense of you can't miss them. Those are gaming experiences you kind of have to have of this current generation.
Oh, totally, Tom. And then for that $16 to $20 price tag on your Switch, that is a must buy. That's a must own. Moving on. We had some VR fun. I know that you have it downloaded. You haven't been yet to play it, but Firewall 0 Hour on PlayStation 4 VR has stolen my heart. I got to say, this is the best VR experience I've ever had. And this is actually the kind of VR experience that I've always wanted. And I feel like a game like this is only getting me closer to that Halo Master Chief Edition VR where I'm running, throwing grenades, and shooting at people. So I don't know if you've seen this. I know you've downloaded it, but it's 4-on-4 multiplayer VR experience on PlayStation. And it's kind of like Rainbow Six Siege with attack and defenders, and you're talking with your team, and you're going slow. There's crouch, there's sprint, and the movement is really tight. Like, they've dialed it down to the 15 degree rotation, or you can free look around, and man, it's perfect, Tom. It is really, really well done.
So give me, there's a couple, I have so many questions about it because I did watch you stream. I think I was on the road one night. You were playing with Dim and a few other people. It looked like you guys were having a ball. I only probably watched 15, 20 minutes of it, but it looked really cool. Does it feel, so you mentioned the movement. So you can do like the chunk movements, right? It's not a smooth move, so you can move in 15 degree or 20 degree chunks.
Yeah, it's about 15 degree chunks. It's not the full 90 degree turn, which is nice. It's like you can chunk it up just to the point where you're moving just that little bit, where in a tactical shooter like this, you don't want to whip it all the way around. You kind of want to slowly move it. So the movement is tight. I mean, You have a joystick up on your top left thumb where you actually move back, forward, left, right, and then the movement stick on your bottom right where your handle would be. And you can just kind of flick that side to side to get a little bit quicker rotation instead of your head turning around.
Gotcha. Okay. And did you, so, and for you, no motion sickness? It was all pretty, you could stay
motion
in
sickness. It was
really,
zero
that's
motion
amazing.
sickness to the point where we played for 4 hours that night, and I could have kept going for another 4. If the game didn't break, we would have continued. But it's super cool of like, you get different guns, you get different operators. Everybody has their own unique abilities, from like kind of a landmine to a radio detector, which will kind of like make people not find out where the hidden bomb is. But the cool one that I really took away from is every gun has a scope. And if you actually pull your PSVR gun up to your face, you can look down the red dot and it gives you that little bit of magnification to see a little bit farther. If not, you can keep it down in front of you and go iron sights. But it was really cool to see that, pull it up and get the extra zoom was pretty cool.
That's really cool. And so the thing about those games that's obviously sort of the make or break is the precision of it. Like you feel like you're really in control of the situation, and you're, especially like Rainbow Six style. If you watch the pros and stuff, I mean, they're threading the needle through, a window, through a door frame, through the next, hallway. Is it that tight and that precise? Is it a little more loosey goosey? Like, talk to me about the gameplay.
It feels both ways. So like at first, when you're first kind of controlling it, you're learning what kind of gun wobble's going on, where you're really aiming. Because at first I felt like I was shooting at people, but I think the aimer might have been a little bit above his head or to the side of it. But once you got it dialed in, you played a couple of matches, you notice that it is pretty tight. If you aim down the sights, you know where you're truly looking, you'll knock somebody out through a smallest little bit of a sight line. So it was pretty cool to have. Once you grow with it, there is truly that skill gap where you can be much better than somebody, knowing the map, knowing the different sight lines, and knowing where you truly have to aim to knock people out.
Very cool. Yeah, that's what makes or breaks those games for me, is they've got to be, not that I'm not precise, but I think that the community kind of demands they can't be like all over the place. So where do you see this going? So do you
Tom,
think you're going to play it a lot?
Oh yeah, I truly believe if I could get Gifted Dim, maybe yourself, we met with random people who had microphones and we were laughing, having a good time, calling ourselves the Alpha Dogs. I mean, it's one of those, even alone, they have the single player, which is just you against AI bots, very similar to kind of like Rainbow Six Siege's terrorist hunt. And that's fun and all, but truly, you could match up with randoms and still have a good time. You could go lone wolf and not talk to your team. If you have a buddy, the two of you can go. It's only 4-on-4. So even if it was a 2-on-4 situation with you and your buddy, you could take it slow enough and still feel like you could try to win this and have a good time still.
Man, that's awesome. I'm assuming is it like multiple, you've got to win best 3 out of 5, 4 out of 7?
No, it's actually pretty interesting. That's the only, actually, you bring up a good point. That's the only part that I don't like, is it's strictly one match. So your team is on attack, my team is on defense. Whoever wins, it's over, just like that. And then we have to go back to a loading screen, back to the lobby, and then rematch up from there. So there's definitely some downtime between each match. I don't know if that was on purpose, but I feel like there should be at least 2 of you attack, I defend, I attack, you defend. We switch off once.
Yeah.
Because it is strictly one match. You either win or you lose, and then we go right back to the lobby, which is kind of kills the mood and kills the vibe once you're really into it. Because just like Rainbow Six, it can be a really fast match. You dictate how fast this match can go. You can slowly walk around, or if we go in guns blazing or the other team goes in guns blazing, this could be a minute-long match, and now we have to go back. We probably have to wait another 2 minutes to reset everything and go back into another match, which is too bad.
That is too bad. And I wonder if that's something they can kind of fix as they go. Because, man, what this game really gets me thinking about is, again, and I'm kind of fascinated by VR, and I've had some amazing VR experiences. And I always wonder if I tweeted, I got an Oculus Rift. It's a long story. I'll tell you the story later. But, I love VR stuff. I'm really fascinated by it. But to me, it's got limitations on the amount of time that I think I can spend in that world. Because I do get a little... I can only do it for short bursts. I can't do it. I could sit down and play, Spider-Man for 7 hours straight and it wouldn't affect me that much. versus that one I really can't do. And a game like that is, in particular, is kind of a nail-biting sort of game. It's like, can you be in that world that long? Is it going to have that much staying power? Are people going to be playing that game in 6 months? You know, can it have the type of, you know, do they going to have to build in all the progression type systems? Are they going to have to make it way more complicated, adding these game modes, all those different things to keep it, not to say it'll ever approach Rainbow Six, I don't mean that, but even if it got 20% of the way to what Rainbow Six has done, it would be a huge success. And I wonder if they have that in them to make that happen.
You know, you bring up a good point, Tom. Like we talked about last week with PUBG and Fortnite and all these competitors, how long is the gameplay loop? How long will this last? 3 months from now, is anybody going to be playing this PSVR title? You know, that's your concern, especially something that's so multiplayer heavy. If the community drops off, then that game becomes null and void to me. I'm not going to play it single player all the time. And it would be tough if me and my buddy got in the lobby and we're struggling to find another 6 players. You know, that would be tough.
It'd be tough. And the only way that they're going to be able to add all these game modes and keep updating it is if they do have the player count and they do have a way to monetize it and all the things that, you know, it's a continuous cycle that they need to make those things go. So, dude, I can't wait to try it out. I have it downloaded. I've been traveling like crazy. Unfortunately, I've got like 2 more huge international trips coming up, so my time's going to get limited. But that one is a priority for me. So you and I got to make time to do that. I can't wait to jump in and do that.
I can't wait, Tom. It's a great one. And actually talking about staying power in a game with lasting legs, we are now going to talk about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds version 1.0 full release on Xbox, moving out of the game's preview program and into a full release now. You and I have had some hands-on. I've had a lot of hands-on. Let's talk about that update. What did you think, Tom?
So I was happy to see all the stuff that was there, obviously, as big as a PUBG fan as I am. And I got to run some stuff with our boy B. Earl. We played a lot the first day. In fact, I, weirdly enough, got a chicken dinner on the very first drop on the new map. It was a horrible game. Didn't kill anybody. It was one of these terrible, like, we walked around, didn't see anybody, ended up killing the last guy in the circle and won the game. But it was a lot of fun. So here's what I'll say. I'm glad that they finally did it and they finally got, you know, the next map in. The game feels really stable. Like, it felt a lot better to me. Absolutely didn't crash. None of those kind of issues. I'm so glad that they're finally over that hump, because boy, that was not a good period of time there where the game was black screening every single time on the new map. So I haven't seen any performance issues. Seems like it's running well. Again, I don't know if it's still, I don't know. Did you buy the Sanhok battle pass kind of thing that added the daily challenges? That's a step in the right direction. Like, I've really enjoyed the fact that they were tracking at least some of my activities. I don't know that it was very in depth. I mean, some of it was just like play 5 matches and some stuff that you would kind of do anyway. It wasn't like it was demanding you to go out and play the game differently, like kill 10 people with this weapon or all that kind of stuff. But I think some of that's in there too. So that was cool to have like an actual progression system that they've desperately needed for an incredibly long time. But I got to be honest, man, this kind of leads into the next one we're going to talk about, which is COD. It's like, did they do enough with it? These are things they should have done, and I'm not going to rip on them too bad. This should have been done 9 months ago. They should have had this stuff iterated on in this next map, and there should be another map and another map. And it's like the amount of, you and I spoke really openly about, is this update going to bring people back in, or is it just going to preserve the players that they have after now playing it? As much as I like it, and I do, and it's rejuvenated me to PUBG, my palms were sweaty, we were having a ball doing it. It really made me stop and go, all they're going to do here is preserve the players that they already have, which may be a good thing. And even that may be tough with Call of Duty coming out and Battlefield 5 coming out. But I just don't know that it was a big enough step forward to bring the people who had left the game, to bring them back in. But I'm having fun with it. I love it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you've been kind of experiencing with it.
Tom, I got a big smile on my face because I think they did a great job. We're going to talk about the competition and my feelings in just a moment, but I got to say, like you said, the newest update has been phenomenal from a technical standpoint. I've only black screened once out of probably the 100 hours I've already played of the update, so that's a huge positive in our book, especially from players who've played it a lot. I used to black screen all the time, so I think the fidelity is running much smoother. I mean, the games feel smooth. The shots feel on and accurate. There is no lag. one black screen out of 1,000+ games. It's going really well. And I like the event pass that they added, very similar to the battle pass on Fortnite, where you feel like, you're gaining levels by doing different daily missions or tasks or just, winning games, and you get extra loot items, which is cool. And they also added daily, weekly, and just lifelong challenges, as you probably saw. So the event pass is strictly XP off of. So it's similar to Fortnite, where every level that you gain, you get points on your event pass and you get different cosmetic items. Well, they also have the daily, weekly, and normal challenges. So it's cool to be able to look at it and be like, okay, on this map, Sandhook, if I get 5 revives on my teammate, I'm going to get 40+ battle points and X amount of XP towards my battle pass.
Oh, I didn't see those. Those are
then
cool.
It goes, it's actually progression there. So it goes in tiers. So that's tier 1. Tier 2 might be like, hey, drive 1,000 miles on Sandhook. And then tier 3 of that will be something different. So there's certain missions, we'll say, that have different tiers on it, and they give you bigger rewards to do different things. And I like that. I like the daily missions, just like Fortnite, where I want to log on daily. I want to check out what it is. Maybe it's 5 headshot kills. Maybe it's, revive your partner 4 times. And then the weekly challenges, and then just the lifelong challenges. Makes you also want to go back to the old maps, which I think is a pretty cool feature as well, because now it definitely has the line in the sand of you can either choose all 3, or you can choose large battle royales or mini battle royale with just Sandhook map on there. So I like that. We've been playing a lot of Sandhook, which is really, really beautiful. I got to say, it's got dynamic weather in there. I don't know if you noticed that in your time playing, but it has heavy fog, beautiful sunshine, or you'll just hear the thunder crack, and all of a sudden it's just a torrential rain pour, and you can't hear any of the footsteps on the ground. So it really makes for different kind of battles that could happen. And that is really, really fun to add, especially coming from our latest map, which was the desert map of like, I can see Tom Bock 1,000 kilometers away. Like, we know we're about to tangle. And it's in this map where it could be fog or it could be rain. I could sneak up on somebody. I could lay in a bush and just slowly creep on them. And I think that adds a lot of layers to the game, which is really, really nice. Number of new guns. I don't know if you've got to experience all of them, Tom, but man, there's some new assault rifles. There's new long-range DMRs, as they call it. There's new attachments with different scopes, different foregrips, different magazines. I think that is all adding to the game that gets me excited about it. And I got to say, I think version 1.0, really good job. The cosmetics, though, on the other side, Tom, little disappointed in that. You know me, I'm a big Fortnite guy on the cosmetic side. I love to put my money where my mouth is. If I value a game and I enjoy the game, I'm going to give them money on things that I want. Fortnite does a great job. Every single day, it's a different skin. And I think that's where PUBG might have missed the mark of it's truly 3 different loot boxes with set items in it, and then actually you have to earn battle points to get different loot boxes that have cool, like, gun skins or different kind of, player models in there. So it's not truly pay and get some cool skins. It's kind of earn more points and get more skins. And that one I didn't really like, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's an interesting twist, though, right? Because in one sense, you want to take people's money if they're willing to give it to you, even if they don't play the game a lot, right? And so I'm sure Fortnite gets a lot of people who are like, oh my God, look at how cool that skin is. They go buy it, but then they don't really play the game that much. And Epic is perfectly happy to take your money even if you don't play. Whereas that model, you've got to kind of, they're earned. And so I think it's kind of like when you see somebody in Fortnite with like a John Wick skin or the Ragnarok skin, it's like, that they earned it. They had to play a ton of time and you can't buy your way. I think you technically could probably buy your way there, but it would be obscene. Those, I think that's PUBG's difference, is they're trying to make people kind of earn it. And so it becomes like a prestige thing, like some of the skins on Counter-Strike and some of those where, if you see somebody rocking the gold, MP40, you're like, wow, that guy's played for a long time. Maybe that's the thought process. I'm not sure. Man, it sounds like you really, I guess I just haven't spent enough time with it, in all honesty. And I know that I haven't spent, I think I've probably had, I would say 10 to 12 drops on, I don't even know how you pronounce it. I've heard different things. Sanhok. Sandhook, whatever it's called. I think I've had maybe a dozen drops on it, a couple of really nasty hot drops that ended very quickly. Hot drops that went okay. I need to put more time in because I didn't see all the different guns. I certainly haven't messed around with too many of them. The map is beautiful though, man. I will say there's something about that map style that with the jungle stuff that I think is really compelling. The dynamic weather. Now, is the weather also on the other maps or is it just on Sanhok?
No, just on Sanhok.
Okay. That's kind of interesting too, because you'd to liven up those maps, like we always talk about Fortnite, and if they put another map out, how it's going to blow people's minds when they do. But it'd be very cool if they took some of those things and added those in, which maybe that leads into the next part of this. Well, so first of all, we need to play this weekend. I got some time. Let's squat up because I really want to see more of it. But secondly is all of those little, I mean, now that they've done this 1.0 update, the game's out of beta. It's an official game now. I hope that means that they're going to continue to make, because this 1.0 update, they added a lot, right? That's the most I think that I can recall that they've added in one big lump. A new map, plus all the new weather features you mentioned. The game seems very optimized. It's running differently, new vehicles, new skins, new everything. This was a big update that they've been waiting for, obviously, for this to chuck out there. My hope is that they do this now kind of sequentially, that they don't wait 6 months to bang out another one. Because as you're seeing from Fortnite, and I'm sure from COD, we'll talk about that in a minute, dude, Fortnite's doing stuff like every week. They do the getaway now, totally different game mode. Add the grapple gun, add this other stuff to it. The new daily skins that you mentioned. But they're iterating on a really frequent basis, right? Don't lose the player's attention, because when you lose it, you're done. You may never get them back. And I hope that PUBG, rather than save up a bunch and blow out an update in 6 weeks time or 3 months time, that they come out every couple of weeks with a little something new to kind of keep it really fresh. I think that's the right move for them at this point, if they have the resources and ability to pull that off.
It's going to be an interesting one, Tom, because we're now going to talk about the competition, which is Call of Duty Black Ops 4 Blackout Mode. The beta is live right now for PlayStation 4. Xbox and PC will go live on this Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend, and then we won't have anything until October when the full game releases. And Tom, man, I got a lot to say because we talked about this last week in the battle of this Battle Royale space. I told you that both of these pillars either are going to destroy these two juggernauts, that is Battlefield 5 and Call of Duty, or these two juggernauts with their, pedigree, their background, their backing, are going to come in and try to make a space for themselves. And I got a big smile on, Tom, because Call of Duty is about to do that, my friend. It is that much fun.
It looks like it. So I haven't played it at all, but I am astounded. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it, because what I have seen of it, watching Shroud, the Doc, all the big streamers play it, it looks like it threaded that perfect needle of what, a Call of Duty. I mean, it's Call of Duty. It's like the biggest shooter on the planet and has been for 10 years. And if they pull this off, I think I tweeted something out that was like, I love PUBG, but on consoles, this will kill it, because if you had the choice between those two, I don't know that anyone's going to play PUBG. So man, I can't wait I haven't played it. I've watched it. Give me give me the whole vibe of what it's like to play.
I think the biggest issue, really quick, is PUBG just had that update last week, and here we are, Call of Duty's now in beta, and that's the only thing I can think about. And that's a big issue for PUBG, with this game looming in early October, coming out with the full release. But I got to say, just like you said, it is Call of Duty. It feels tight, fast, and fun right there. It is Call of Duty on a big map, either solos, duos, quads as they call it, and it is Battle Royale, just Call of Duty style, and oh man, is that a good time. It runs smooth. It is pretty as can be, and the map is actually made up of so many of players' favorite maps from around the different Call of Duty franchises. There's the Asylum from Zombies. If you go up, there's a giant Nuketown Island over there. There's different map pieces where you go to that and you're like, man, like this was my favorite Call of Duty map from Black Ops 2 or Black Ops 1. Man, do you remember the Asylum and there's zombies running around? It is so cool, Tom. The vehicles that they added for Call of Duty truly never having vehicles in multiplayer, these vehicles feel great. They got an ATV, they got this big dump truck type looking thing that you can jump in with all of your homies. They got a helicopter that whips around.
I saw that.
It is so much fun, Tom. I mean, I can't praise it enough. I got to say, thank you to the community of best friends out there that got me a PlayStation 4 code because I needed to play this all week long, and that is what I've done since Monday, and I don't plan to stop until Sunday evening when they turn this thing off on the last battle because it is that much fun. You know, like I said, the map is so diverse, different areas that you would recognize in a heartbeat. They actually have zombies mode mystery boxes dispersed around the map. So you see this beaming light, just like the mystery box, coming out of nowhere in the map. You run over to it, and those actually have zombies running around them, right? So you can beat up the zombies. You can kill the zombies. They'll drop loot. You can touch the mystery box. That will give you a different kind of gun. There's a ray gun in it. There's a rocket launcher in it. There's giant snipers. They got these things called golden guns where you run up to the gun and it's fully kitted out. It has every single add-on that you would want, from a silencer, an extended mag, a grip, a tactical stock, you know, a scope on it. And it's like, oh man, like once you get one of those, you feel so powerful. They got loot crates that drop. Whew, I mean, I'm losing my breath just telling you how great it is. It's a must play. And I'm sold off of this beta, how smooth it's run, how much fun it is. I am going to purchase Call of Duty. As somebody that hasn't purchased a Call of Duty in many years now, boom, we're on it, and PUBG is going to have a battle now. Fortnite, I don't see Fortnite having an issue with that free-to-play model being so well established, being that #1 top right now. But PUBG in the background, they're going to have a big issue with this one right now with how proven this is.
Wow, man, that's so good to hear, Mike. Like, I love to hear that, because what I saw of it, and to hear people that, you know, that you trust that their opinions are unique and valid and they're not being paid off. I know the doc used to be a developer at Sledgehammer, so very tight to the Call of Duty franchise, but it looks so much fun. The one thing I would, a couple of questions for you, because I'm excited to try it out. I'll probably do it when it comes to Xbox. I'm not, the PlayStation beta ends pretty soon, doesn't it?
No, so everything goes until the end of this week, Sunday. So we're recording this on September 12th or 13th, whatever day it is. You have until the end of this Sunday. So PlayStation all week long. Xbox PC, unfortunately, is just the weekend. And that's why I kind of had to get that PlayStation code. I already had the Xbox beta, so I'm ready for the weekend. But, man, I needed to get as much time as possible with this. That's how much fun it is.
Yeah, it looks like it did. So here are my questions, and I'll ask them both, and you can answer them in order. So the first one is, did it take you a long time to as I was watching people play it, it did seem a little confusing picking stuff up, and there was like figuring out a trauma kit versus a first aid kit and all that stuff. And I haven't watched, I've tried to watch closely to figure out exactly how you pick up and do stuff. So first question is, was that difficult to kind of learn, or was it just so battle royale-ish that you picked it right up?
That, I think, is the learning curve of it's so battle royale-ish that you already know everything. It's just like Fortnite. It's just like PUBG. You understand you need to pick up gun X. You need to grab the attachments from PUBG. You need to get the health kit from Fortnite. And it's really quick and easy to learn. My only complaint from the whole beta that I've played right now is I just don't like holding down square and or X to pick things up. We're so accustomed from Fortnite and PUBG where it's just you tap X really quick because you're in a panic to grab things, right? But in this one, you have to actually kind of go up and hold it for just a moment. It's not long, but it's that difference of like tap, 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 tap to hold to pick up certain items. So that slowed me down, but the learning curve, it was quick. It was easy because I had so much of that background already built up in our Battle Royale experience. Some cool little features that you might not notice. I mean, you can run and heal yourself at the same time. Really great mechanic. You can switch out your health packs on the fly by just pressing a toggle. You change it in your backpack, bang, you can flip it back down. Heal while you're running. That's something PUBG and Fortnite, you do not do that. That slowing, that stopping, having to hide behind something really changes the gameplay, as opposed to this where I'm running behind cover and I'm healing at the same time so I can turn and try to fight you is a really nice added mechanic. I really like that. And another one I was going to say that I'm probably forgetting now. Oh, inventory management is very minimal, Tom. It's actually really interesting how I think in the hours that I've played, I mean, I've probably already surpassed 20 plus hours playing this beta. I would say I've opened up my backpack for inventory management less than 10 times. It's smooth, it's easy. You never feel over encumbered, or you never feel like you have to keep track of anything like PUBG where you might be carrying the wrong ammo. You literally can carry all sorts of ammos up to their maximum holding capacity. There is no drop the 9 mil so you can carry more 5.6. It is simply every gun or every ammo type can hold 185 in your backpack regardless of what you have. You get 5 slots right off the bat that you can add, you can pick things up in, and you can get backpacks on the fly, which will give you an additional 5. So you can pick up 5 more items. And really those items that you're holding are truly attachments, but really when you walk up to an attachment, you're putting it onto your gun instantaneously, which is really nice. You don't have to go to the inventory.
I saw that on the menu.
You don't have to figure it out.
Really slick.
You're holding all of your throwables and consumables. So any sort of grenades, tripwires. There's the RC recon cars, a really cool addition to be able to hide behind a rock and figure out where people are with the RC cars. Nice. And then of course your healing items take up space. And then the other really cool one is they actually have the perk system from all of your Call of Duty. So you pick up perks out of these luggage boxes down below on your feet, and each perk is a consumable that lasts up to 2 minutes. So there's like dead silence where your footsteps don't make any noise. There's paranoia where if anybody aims at you or shoots at you, you get an audio sound cue to let you know where they are. There's a team link where you can see where your teammates are through walls. There's different of these, you know, cool consumables and perks that you can get while playing. And that really, you know, really affects the game and changes it up come the late time of the moment. And you got to be smart about it, though, because you only get 120 seconds with that perk. So it's like, do I use it now? Do I use it in the final circle? When does this matter to me from the movement or maybe, you know, the Outlander where you heal when you're outside the circle? It's pretty cool, Tom. It's really cool.
They've thought of everything. I mean, this is what we talked about from the get-go, which is if a really big developer that has a huge pedigree with these kind of games, which neither Bluehole really nor Epic. I mean, Epic's more known for the engine and some games. I don't want to minimize what they've done because they've done some amazing stuff. But one of these big shooter developers came in and did this. This was the one that was really interesting. Now, the last question we can kind of move on is, do you feel, I mean, I heard Shroud say something when he was playing. He's like, every gun feels the same, right? There's the thing about Call of Duty has always been, it's accessible. It's more about movement, speed. I sound like Dr. Disrespect, right? Yeah. Violence, momentum, and whatever. It's more about that stuff than it is about controlling recoil and aim and all the stuff that PUBG is just like a very technical shooter that's tough to do that. Did you notice the difference between the guns? Do you notice the difference between the attachments when you put them on, or is everything kind of roughly the same?
I would actually be in kind of Shroud's camp on that. It's very similar. Like, you won't tell the difference. I mean, the submachine gun clearly shoots a little bit faster than your assault rifle, right? There's a 3-round burst assault rifle. There's a sniper rifle. But really, the recoil feels minimal. As opposed to PUBG, when I let one loose and I hold down that trigger to shoot and the gun just whips in circles and all around. Like, this one feels like you could hold down that trigger and you're still pretty spot on. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of a jump, but not as much as PUBG with that learning curve that we had to put up with. Really, I don't feel a notice of the stock. The extended magazines, of course, you're going to see an extended clip in there, but like the stock, the foregrip, I don't notice any of that. The extended nozzle on there. If you don't get a silencer, I don't really see the difference. The optics, of course, you're going to see a difference from the red eye to the, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, whatever. You'll see that difference. But yeah, kind of like Shroud said, all of the guns feel very similar. There's not a distinction of like, here's the M4, here's the M16, here's, the AK. They all have their different kicks or their different things. It's like you pick up a gun and you're ready to go. It's game time right away, no matter what.
I think that's genius, though. I think that they made it really accessible because those are the things that frustrate people about PUBG and some of those games. And I think, man, it's going to be so crazy to watch what happens when this game comes out. I honestly think this game is going to be a monster. The stuff that I've seen of it, and again, I'm saying this without even having personally played it myself, just watching people, dude, it's going to be a monster of a game, and I can't wait for it to come out.
Tom, it's going to be big time. We're going to move on to our next topic, but the final note is we talked about it last episode. Here we are. We're going to be talking about it come December and into January. Like I said, how long is the legs? How big will the community be 3 months after launch? That's going to be the true testament. Where's PUBG? Where's Fortnite? Where's Call of Duty? Where's Battlefield 5 with these Battle Royale situations? Who can outlast each other? Who's going to get those updates like Fortnite to stay relevant? And Call of Duty right now is about to steamroll somebody in this situation. So look out. And if you're into Battle Royales, this is going to be a must get right now. This is really good.
100%. Totally agree.
All right. Well, let's wrap up the show since we've been going long. Right now, September 7th, shirtless Spider-Man was yelling at us all month long has finally happened, and we have had our hands on Spider-Man PlayStation 4. We're not going to get into spoilers. We're not going to have our spoiler cast episode until Tommy Gun Tom Bock beats the game. We're going to invite some best friends to join us and talk about Spider-Man, but we're going to give our initial thoughts and impressions of the game thus far. I've had a long weekend with it. I have 100% of the game, and Tom Bock is quickly nipping at my heels to beat the game, so I can't wait to talk more about it. But Tom, tell me, how's your Spider-Man weekend been?
Mike, it's interesting to me to play a game like this because you can see the depth of it's what I expected, I think, from this game. I really did. We talked about would it be at the level of what Rocksteady did with Arkham, and there's so many similarities to Arkham in so many ways. I know people have kind of said that in a positive sense and a negative sense because they're copying a lot of the stuff that was in all the Arkham stuff. But if anything, I think the level of there's a few new bars that I think, and again, this isn't spoilery territory, there's a few new bars that this game has set that I was really, really amazed by. Obviously, the gameplay is fantastic. It looks beautiful. All the things that you'd expect from a modern day game are there and in spades. But two things really caught me about this game that I think no other game has done before. Not on console, maybe on PC. PC enthusiasts would probably correct me on this one. But the first one is just the fidelity of the cutscenes, the motion capture, facial animations. Like, I've never played a game that I felt I could like watching a movie, tell what a character was thinking just based on their facial animations, the way they looked around the room, the way they interacted with another character. Unbelievable the work that Insomniac did with some of the facial animations. I know it's funny to point that out for a game that's an action adventure game, but that really, really, as much as I played it, has just floored me how amazing that is. The second bar, before I get into the gameplay stuff, that I think is another, I haven't seen this in a game before, at least not a console game, was the level of detail within. I'll think of two places in particular: the shelter, Feast Shelter, that Aunt May works in, that Peter also works in, and also the Doc Ock's lab. If you walk around and look at those environments and look at the books on the shelf and the cans of coffee, cans of soda and half-eaten the sandwiches, and I've never seen a game that had that much detail, that didn't reuse the assets. Like, everything looks unique. Every space looks lived in, looks real, looks like a place that could really exist. Like there's like a few cabinets or like some things within Doc Ock's lab that I was looking at the other day and my daughter was watching with me. I'm like, just think, like, that was one guy's job to do that one little corner bookshelf and all the little knickknacks on it. There's like some physics books and some other stuff. And man, none of it looked reused. It wasn't, some games will do those, but they'll do the same one. Like, you'll see the same, every fifth book will be the same book, and every third shelf will have the same crap on it. Like, everything in that game is unique. Like, all the spaces are so amazing, including the one that's the most amazing, which is the city, right? I'm a native New Yorker. I grew up in the Bronx. Ubisoft did it with San Francisco recently, which was not an accurate San Francisco by any means. It was like a weird kind of a mini version in it for Watch Dogs. that city for Spider-Man is unbelievable. Like the accuracy of which they got New York. Again, it's not perfect, but it is pretty damn close. And I don't know if you've done it, but just jump on a random cab and ride it around. Like everyone's going about their daily lives in a way that, again, doesn't feel contrived. It doesn't feel like it's a make-believe world. It feels like a real world to me, start to finish, which is sort of the biggest compliment I can pay to what Insomniac did, besides the amazing gameplay. That game just makes you feel like you are Spider-Man. You are Peter Parker too, which I love that you get to play as him, and we can talk about some of that stuff. But man, that game may have drawn me into its universe, and I'm not a big comic book guy. I mean, I'm a fan of it, but I don't read all the stuff. I've never felt more like a superhero in a game, I think, than what that one's done. I'll even put it up with Arkham as far as feeling like Batman. I feel like Spider-Man in that game, for sure.
You hit the nail on the head, Tom. It's so great. I mean, it's one of those. I got the special console edition. The console is beautiful. The game is beautiful. And it's one of those games where I could be playing until 2 a.m. in the morning and still want to keep going. It is just, it grabs you. You don't even have to be playing the story, the side quests. You could just be walking around the city, swinging around the city, and it just feels so good. The city is so lively, like you said, and a couple big ones, without getting any spoilers for me that I really enjoyed, was just traveling around the city with photo mode and stopping and taking cool photos of all the awesome small details of graffiti on all the walls. Like, there's so many unique, cool pieces of art graffiti on the walls that, like, some people might not ever see. I was literally stopping in back alleys just to look at some of these cool photos that they put up there, take photo mode out, take photos next to them. I really, really enjoyed that piece of it. Probably could just continue spending hours doing that all day long. And another really cool one that I really enjoyed the gameplay of, two things actually. One, the girls from What's Good Games talked about it. When you're climbing on the sides of buildings, you can actually see inside of those buildings most of the time. And there's only like 4 different rooms really, but it's cool to be able to, like, instead of just a black wall, it's like you can look in and there's like a home or there's an office building room right there. I thought that was great. And my final one was when you stop people from a jewelry robbery or a convenience store robbery, that mode where you're outside in the 3D world and you're fighting the thugs, but then you can go into the convenience store and it's got this cool vibe feel of, like, it's a small box, but you can feel like the 3D aspect of it, of like going deeper inside of the building as opposed to just being out on the street. It's like, wow, that's such a cool gameplay feel that I've never felt before. And that was really an awesome addition for me.
Yeah, man, Mike, I agree so much. Like it is, I think the thing, and let's, I know you finished the game and we talked about, just kind of briefly traded some texts about how in today's, especially like Twitter ruined this game, I think, for a lot of people, and people have this urge to just spoil things. I don't know what that's all about, but the amount of time and effort, a part of me, and you mentioned like stopping and looking at back alleys and the graffiti. I do the same thing. By the way, that photo mode may be one of the most, it has to be the most amazing photo mode in a game ever. We have all the stickers. Have you messed with that? Like, there's so much stuff you can do in that photo mode that it's almost mind boggling.
It's truly incredible, Tom. Like, I was a person, I didn't get deep enough into Horizon, nor did I understand the photo mode to take advantage of that. And then when God of War launched, the big conversation was it didn't launch with photo mode. It came out shortly afterwards, so I never got to mess with it. So this was truly my first experience on the PlayStation 4 of like, hey, this is photo mode at launch. Take a look at it, Mike. And I would stop. I finally figured out the mechanics of like pressing pause at any moment, even during a cutscene, and going into photo mode, being able to change the angle, go to selfie. And like you said, Tom, adding stickers, adding frames, like that was really, really
So
cool
cool
to be able to do. That was awesome.
It was so well thought out, and I think that does add to the, the good and the bad with having to feel like you got to rush through a game, because I was guilty of it. Like, I would get to certain places, top of the Empire State Building, different stuff a beautiful sunset. There's one spot, again, not spoiler, where it gets very rainy, and there's a whole section of it where you do it in the rain and the bad weather. Like, the different environments at night and day and all the stuff that they worked on, I feel compelled to take shots. There's some amazing pictures of zooming out over, part of the Hudson River or the East River, whichever one you were on, and sort of looking at, the fairies coming in and the sunset. Like, it is just breathtaking to where it makes you want to stop and take those pictures. However, when you take them, people are like, "Oh, you're spoiling the skins for me because you took it in a certain skin, or you're doing something like that," which is what it is. I will say though, I know this is going to get so bad with, when the fall season comes with these games and you did play through it very quickly. And I applaud you for doing that because, like you said, you want to be part of the conversation. You don't want to get left behind. But that window that people in today's world seem to have to consume things, man, it is really frustrating. Like, it's getting shorter and shorter. I mean, you sent me a text on like Monday, like, it's been out for 3 days and I feel like I'm behind because I haven't finished it yet. Right. Which is insane because this game took these guys, 3 years, if it took them a day to do it, because it's so complicated and there's so much going on and such an amazing amount of work. I almost feel guilty consuming it quickly. Like, I don't want to rush through it. I don't know, in today's world, you feel like you kind of have to. And I think it's a shame in a lot of ways because there's so much to be savored in that game. I don't know about you, but I turned the difficulty way up. So I'm up at amazing mode, which I was getting my butt kicked. To go in a little bit of the gameplay stuff, I was getting my butt kicked pretty good at the beginning, right? It's a lot it's faster than Arkham for sure as far as the combat goes. You have to be a little more dynamic, but once you get it, I think it's you can get in a very good rhythm with it and do really well in fights. I was doing so well at one point after getting destroyed. Like, I was dying a lot. This is on the middle mode, right? Whatever the medium difficulty is. To then I was never losing. I was killing everybody pretty effortlessly. That I cranked it up to the hardest mode and kind of went through that again, would lose a little bit. And now the game's got a really nice learning curve, I think, is what I'm getting at. Is you've got it's amazing how powerful you feel like you can get, but even just using the basic tools, right? They give you a lot more as you go, but I feel really good about the challenge level of that game, again, making you feel like Spider-Man. I think they did a really, really nice job balancing the difficulty of those fights, especially when they add in some of the guys with the electric whips, the guys with the shields, some of the brutes especially, which still kind of give me some challenge. But are you playing on the medium, or where are you playing at?
I was on the middle, Thomas, right? I was on the middle.
Okay.
And I mean, I grinded, I would say, and it never felt like a grind. It was so much fun to do all the side tasks, do the main side quests, just do the main quest. Like, it was a great time. And I think, you talked about it. You feel bad for the developers kind of grinding through their game and beating it in a weekend. On the opposite side, it was actually pretty cool to hear the Kind of Funny guys had their big spoiler cast actually with Brian Intihar from Insomniac. And they brought that question to him of like, how does it feel to have somebody beat your game, in 18 hours from its release? What's the feeling like? And he actually spun it as like, man, how cool is it that somebody loved this so much that they just couldn't stop? You know what I mean? So, it's tough to have that feeling in the back of your mind of like, I'm trying to avoid spoilers. I got to get through this so I can be part of the conversation. And then that opposite feeling of like, man, is this how they want me to beat this game? But to hear him say, man, it feels good to know people loved it and really wanted to tear through it like that because they had that much enjoyment, that made it feel better for me on that opposite side of like, man, that's nice because, there is that give and take of, should I spend more time in God of War or am I crushing this weekend? And if it's that much enjoyment, then it's all worth it. It's all worth it in the
I think
end.
you're right, Mike. I think you're right. It just, it does. I mean, look, everybody does it at their own pace. I'm definitely a slower gamer than most. I do tend to, like I told you, I don't want to do the story missions because it means I'm that much closer to the end of the game. And so I tend to do all the other stuff first. Right. And some of the side things, they did a great job with the side stuff. We can kind of talk about that when we do our full episode more, but they did a really nice job. Some of them are a little repetitive, but most of them I really enjoyed. And I thought they did a nice job with that. Man, I will say one thing too, and I'm not a big comic book guy, but I certainly know the vibe of Spider-Man and sort of his, smart ass comments and quirkiness. They did a really good job with encapsulating what it is to be Spider-Man. To me, they did. Like, it feels like what Spider-Man would be like. And he even, I think at one point, and again, it's not spoilery, but something to the effect of, he makes a joke at an inopportune time, and he even like apologizes for it. He's like, I'm known for saying things that sort of, making light of a tough situation via humor or whatever the case might be. And I thought it's such a balance because they do have a lot of people who are really purists. When we know plenty of people who live and breathe comic books, and if they didn't strike the right balance with that character, it would have been really challenging. And most of the past Spider-Man games, if I think of all the Beanox games, and I've played a bunch of the old Spider-Man games, he never really, you never got into that. Like that just wasn't a thing. They were just trying to capture the essence of him and all the move sets and all the stuff Spider-Man does. But I thought they did a really, really, really nice job, in, kind of encapsulating what it is to be Spider-Man. They did great with that. I also, and people have been really, really particularly harsh on some of the Peter Parker stuff, which I'm glad you got to play as Peter. I'm glad you got to be him. That was a unbelievably conscious decision they had to make, to say, we want to put you in his skin, even if it's only to do the silly little, and some of them get really hard, by the way. I'm sure, I don't know if you've done all of them, but the spectrograph things and some of the different, the BioShock style connect the electric current stuff, they get really difficult. But I love that they let you play as him, because I feel, and again, I'm not done with the story yet, so I don't know where it's going, but I feel more connected to him as a character because they let me play as him in his non-Spider-Man stuff. I thought that was a fantastic decision that they made to let you do that.
Oh, it was perfect, Tom. I think it's an A+ game. And, my final note before we call it, because, man, I want to dive into the spoilers, is I felt like every little side objective, not the side quest or the main quest, but every side objective, those add-on things, I loved it because you would finish it and it was a sentence or two of key dialogue that gave you more input or more insight into Peter, Spider-Man, whatever the story may be, instead of like a 5-minute long cutscene or a 5-minute long conversation where you're still swinging around town and he's still yapping and talking. Like, I always felt like every time I completed something, I got 2 strong sentences that made me feel good, that gave me a little more insight, that helped me understand Spider-Man or Peter Parker more, and we kept going. There's like sometimes where I feel like I'll play a game and I'll do a side quest, and next thing you know, we're on a 5-minute long monologue for some reason that I did not need.
Yeah, I agree. Especially, Mike, when they did, just the finding the backpacks, and it'd give you a little bit of backstory when he'd find them and say, oh, that's the time that I such and such, right? That I fought so-and-so, or I got rid of my glasses, or did something. Like they pieced out what it was to be him in just the right way, the right manner, to where again, and I can't wait to see where the story goes. I'm sure I'll finish it up here in the next couple of days. I don't think I'm that far away, especially because I finished all the other stuff. I know I can kind of mainline the story and get through it. But I agree with you. It wasn't over exposition. Some of those games explained too much. It's like it dropped you into his life at that exact time, with what was going on with MJ, what was going on with Aunt May, what was going on with his job, what was going on with Doc Ock. Like it's so well thought out. Like, kudos to Insomniac. That's everything that I would have hoped that game would be, and then some. I do hope people stick with it. And maybe when we do the spoiler cast, we talk about sort of what is going to be the long tail on that game. Is there going to be stuff you're going to want to do? I know, again, not going into spoilers, but there is some challenge stuff that at first pass, you're not going to get the highest score in. It's going to take a lot of repetition to get some of the high scores. But is it going to be worth doing all that stuff? I don't know. I hate to think that game's going to be on the shelf in a couple of weeks or a month or a couple of months and never to be looked back at again, because it's up at that master PC sort of level. It may not be like God of War level masterpiece, but is it going to bring you back in a year? Is it going to be like I ran into some kid at PAX. I was wearing a Last of Us shirt, and I'm like, I can play The Last of Us once a year, honestly, and enjoy it just as much. And I look forward to replaying it again, just as I do BioShock and a few of those games. I wonder if I'm going to want to play this game a year from now and play it again from start to finish. I hope so. I think it's close to that kind of a game that I would want to go back and do it. But I hope that there's more end game stuff that I just haven't unlocked yet or haven't seen yet, because I do want to spend more time in that universe. I don't want it to end.
Oh, Tom, you hit it. And you know what? For me, this will actually be the first game that I ever actively want to return for extra DLC. I'll tell you, Tom, I think I return, and I buy a lot of season passes, and I probably return to less than 10% of the video games that I own season passes for that extra DLC. I'm probably caught up with something else. But Spider-Man, once I finish that, I'm like, man, when this next DLC drops in a month or 4 months down the road, I will actively turn on my PlayStation, download that, and pursue to play it because it was that much fun and it was that good. And that's coming from somebody, like I said, 10% of games I rarely go back to check out any extra DLC ever.
That says a lot. I think I'm right there with you, Mike. I don't think there's anything they come out with for that game. I'm going to be definitely back into it. There's no question. I think I'd even do the story again, if I'm being honest, and do it at amazing difficulty level right from the get-go and do it again. That's how much fun I'm having with it.
I love it, Tom. Well, that concludes episode 11 of the Game Time Podcast. We got to talk a whole lot of video games, and fall is here, folks. So get ready for a whole lot more coming your way. Of course, thank you so much for tuning in and for your continued support. Make sure to hit that like, share, subscribe button. Ring that bell so you get the notifications turned on for whenever me and Tom Bock come back for your audio listening and viewing pleasures here on the Game Time Podcast. Tom Bock, thank you so much for coming back at me another week. Tell them where they can find you.
First of all, man, it was so good to catch up with you again. It's great that we're getting back in rhythm doing this. I always have one of my favorite hours every week to sit down and talk games with you, man. It's such a good thing. Find me on Twitter at Galunga.
Love it. You can check me out on all my social medias at SnowBikeMike. Of course, twitch.tv/SnowBikeMike. Me and Tom Bock and the boys and girls are usually getting a little crazy on the stream, so make sure to tune on in to that one. Until then, please leave some comments down below. Tom Bock loves to read them and respond to you. Let us know about your Spider-Man impressions. No spoilers, please, down there. Let's keep it easy. Let us know what games you've been playing. And, of course, we will see you next week for either some heavy Spider-Man PlayStation 4 spoiler cast or some more Call of Duty and any sort of game content. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again. Peace.
Peace out.